The Descent, one of Britain's best horror film outputs in the past 15 years, has long been the subject of narrative speculation. Whether it's Sarah was in a coma all along or other such infamous cliches, watchers have questioned what really happens to a group of friends that face up against dark-dwelling monsters deep underneath the North Carolina mountains, with continuous theories since release in 2006. Whilst this one in particular definitely isn't a new theory and not one we can really take credit for, it is one that has stood the test of time and an interesting one to unpack when you really get your teeth into it. If you like these sorts of classic theories being revisited and a few new things added like old campfire stories, let us know in the comments section and tell us some of your own theories too that you think are worth a look at. But for now, I'm Ash from That Film Theory, and this is how the crawlers aren't the real killers in The Descent. First things first, however, let's look at how the film plays out on the surface. The Descent is the story of 6 female spelunkers out for adventure when everything goes terribly wrong. We have Sarah, our traumatized protagonist who lost her family in a tragic car accident, her best friend and soft soul Beth, the hard-faced frenemy Juno, butch and reckless newcomer to the group Holly, and 2 sisters Rebecca and Sam, the former a safety-cautious outdoors type, and the latter an inexperienced but capable medical student. The group have reunited a year after Sarah's accident to rekindle their friendship, intent on bonding through a shared love of caving with a planned system and safety checks in place for an afternoon of exploration. It should be the perfect fun group trip together. Only Juno has lied and the group find themselves in a completely new system not on any maps, and their planned escape backups won't have any idea where they really are. When the sheetrock gives way and their entrance is sealed shortly after getting inside, the reality of their situation hits home, and it's a bid to escape their underground prison before it's too late. In amongst the chaos, it's revealed that Juno was having an affair with Sarah's late husband Paul, and Sarah consistently has dreamlike visions of her daughter holding a birthday cake with 5 candles. All that pales, however, to the discovery of flesh-eating monsters called crawlers that pick the group off one by one, blind but able to hear incredibly well, and the prime hunters in their previously undisturbed underground habitat. Unsurprisingly, they add a whole new level of desperation to the women's escape, the matter of life and death becoming all the more high stakes when there's creatures that will tear you limb from limb hiding in the dark. It begs the question, however, of what such a feat of evolution is doing hidden for so many years in this one cave system. Something this unique and unheard of surely would have been found in other instances by now, especially in an area littered with animal corpses before even entering the cave entrance. In that case, what is really happening when Sarah zones out, seeing her dead family almost beckoning her forth? Is there really something killing off the friendship group, or has it been Sarah all along? We obviously see Sarah at multiple points throughout the movie suffering with her mental health. As the aforementioned visions of her dead daughter reveal, Sarah isn't coping well with the grief of losing her family. She's suffering with PTSD, creating her own image of seeing her daughter Jessica on her 5th birthday, which she never actually made it to. From Sarah waking up in hospital and running out of her room to impending darkness, director Neil Marshall parallels the loss of her sanity alongside her trek into the bowels of the earth, using darkness and light continuously as reflective of how easily life can be snuffed out by the cruelness of fate. Interestingly, on from this, we see Sarah is on prescribed psychiatric medication in a brief shot of the cabin, paralleling Rebecca's warning of what can happen while spelunking if things go wrong. You can get dehydration, disorientation, claustrophobia, panic attacks, paranoia, hallucinations, visual and oral deterioration. It's arguably the same as what can happen from one not taking medication, of which Sarah doesn't manage to do, as it's assumed they'll just be going on a day trip before getting sucked into a living nightmare in the unknown cave system. Her pills aren't with her in the cave, but have been purposely shown on screen at their lodgings, potentially proving that this crawler problem is born from Sarah's distorted mind rather than through natural phenomenon. It's when Sarah attempts to shimmy through the tight crawl space of the cave that we can pinpoint her full psychotic break. While she struggled previously with these visions, her panic attack in between 2 impenetrable pieces of rock when she becomes stuck is the defining moment for her fractured mind. She's trapped, forced with fight or flight, and she can't run, so chooses the other, violent option. We actually see Sarah kill 2 people in the film to back this idea up too. Juno, who looks terrified of seeing her when Sarah turns up again, and a mercy killing of Beth, so we know Sarah's capable of taking out people whilst presumably somewhat lucid. We watch later in the film as she's submerged in a pool of blood and emerges a stronger, primal, animalistic attacker, symbolic of the bloodshed she's responsible for. These are the obvious points that lend themselves to the Descent's dual narrative, but there's more too. Sarah is the first one to spot a crawler, as well as the first one to find signs of their existence in the cave. She's the first to see them on camera, she's the first to really interact with them, and is the one we see seeding their existence through finding claw marks and other such evidence. That she's told instantly that it's her eyes playing tricks on her is an important bit to note. Sarah creates these monsters as a delusion from her own murderous tendencies that she gives into as the film progresses, losing her mind and her humanity as she creates a vicious, terrifying horde to take place of her emotional instability. The crawlers are a reflection of her own self-image, lost and alone in the dark after her family has been so cruelly taken away from her. Something interesting as well is the design of the crawlers themselves. Whilst they are animalistic and primal and representative of Sarah's loss of humanity through this brutally aggressive snap, the fact they are blind should be important. Is it that Sarah doesn't want to see what she's doing or who she's become? Perhaps it's a physical manifestation of the blindness to Paul and Juno's relationship that she missed, something that now defines her with the loss of her family. That they also look like demons and need overcoming is probably a part of it too. But why would she want to kill her friends? Well, we know Juno was involved with her husband, and that his wandering mind whilst driving, thinking about her, is what cost both him and Jessica their lives. The other members of her group could be projections of her emotions as well. If Juno takes on the role of sexuality, then the rest can be the other facets of her personality and mindset she wants to erase. The innocence that was taken away from her in Sam, the responsibility she no longer has in Rebecca, her sense of adventure she's lost in Holly, and the embodiment of her friendship and support that's been wrenched away from her in Beth. Sarah wants to get rid of these in a psychotic rage to reach her true animalistic potential. She has no need for these people or their representations anymore. Writer Josh Grimm brings up an interesting angle of seeing faces throughout the movie as if being watched, or as if different perspectives are being offered up from Sarah's fractured version of crawler reality and her own violent actions as reality too. The most appropriate moment that links these two is Sarah's own scream after killing off some of the crawlers in the blood pit, one that transforms to the screech of a crawler when heard by the other members of the group. Pretty conspicuous, right? And the cherry on top of the cake is, well, the cake itself. At the true end of the film, when Sarah awakens knocked out on the floor of the system after hallucinating her own escape and sees her daughter for the final time, the cake she's holding changes from 5 candles to 6. It's brief, as the change can only be seen on a transition shot moving from the cake back to the daughter's face, but it is definitely there. Importantly, this shot is one of the most integral to this theory, as up to that point 5 women have died and been prophesied to die in Sarah's visions, as represented by their candles being blown out at the very start of the film. It's only when Sarah's own fate is sealed, as she's left alone to succumb to the cave surrounded by screeching crawlers, that the extra candle is added to represent her limited time left. All these women are as the birthday candles on Jessica's cake, destined to be extinguished and left in the dark. That Sarah hears the sounds of the crawlers as she smiles is her acceptance of what she's become, and her fate of death is the only way she gets to be with her daughter, so it's one she accepts gladly. Even if the shorter ending were to be considered in the American release, where Sarah sees Juno's bloodied corpse sitting in the car with her, it reaffirms the theory just as well. Sarah's mind has been broken to the point of being literally haunted by her guilt and faced with her dead friend, a cyclical marker that points back to Paul dying from thinking about Juno in the first place at the beginning of the film. Sarah's return to the car on the way back from the expedition is a mirror of the opening of the movie, a spiral out of control as she struggles to move past the trauma that fractured her mind originally. It all leads back to this moment. And if none of that was enough to convince you, then just take a look at the title itself. In the same way the Rings title is symbolic of the circle of light that defines the well, the cyclical nature of the videotape narrative, and the phone call, the descent can be applied to more than just travelling down into the caves. It might well represent the women's journey down into the earth, yes, but it is also symbolic of Sarah's own descent into madness. There has been a sequel, I know, but it wasn't of Neil Marshall's creation, so it has to be argued that it has no real bearing on his original work. The Descent works far too well as a standalone story to let the follow-up bear any resemblance to the first tale, like the whole Jaws franchise after the first movie. I rest my case. So what do you think of this classic theory? Is Sarah losing her mind, or are the crawlers true flesh and blood? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, we would love to hear more from you guys with your own theories and suggestions for the channel, so if you have anything you'd like to share or think we should take a look at, then drop us a line at filmtheory@whatculture.com. For now though, I've been Ash, this has been That Film Theory, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.